And now it's my honor to introduce a great friend of mine from California, Representative Jimmy Panetta.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to Representative McGovern for your leadership on this and always being able to explain the rules to anybody and everybody. And thanks to my colleagues up here who are serving and who have served and will continue to serve the United States per their obligations of the U.S. Constitution. What we've seen in this military intervention in Venezuela is that it has left us with uncertainty, with instability, with insecurity. And so it is now up to us in the United States Congress to finally act with tenacity to play our part and to pass this war powers resolution that prevents boots on the ground in Venezuela. Look, as much as I think most of us up here, if not all of us, appreciated the swift, spectacular, and stunning success of our special operators and intelligence community to take out a despot on January 3rd, we are left with great uncertainty as to the day after in Venezuela. Although this president claims that the United States will run Venezuela, the vice president of Maduro was sworn in to lead the country. Somebody, we don't know whether or not she has the support internally and externally. We don't know whether the army in Venezuela supports her. We don't know whether Minister of Defense Lopez supports her. We don't know whether or not she's going to have elections. We don't know what type of deal for oil she got into with the Trump administration. Now, speaking of oil, this panacea that President Trump talks about, we don't know who's going to spend the hundreds of billions of dollars to invest in that company to revive that dilapidated and degraded oil infrastructure. We don't know if there's labor, if the insurance companies are on board with this. We don't know if the world's saturated oil market will accept any more oil. This has left great instability, not just in Venezuela, but in the region. And that leads to insecurity for the United States of America. Look, I get that Donald Trump wants to impose his Don-Roe Doctrine, this spheres of influence, rather than the rules-based international order that we've relied upon for stability for the past many years, decades. An order that has led to our stability and security. Because we know that if we leave it up to China and Russia to lead in their spheres of influence, they will not just dominate those areas, they will come into our sphere of influence. But this is what happens when you have a foreign policy that's based on incoherency, that's based on hypocrisy and based on audacity. It's what happens when you pardon a former president of Honduras for drug charges, the same drug charges that you're using to take out President Maduro. It's what happens when you take out drug boats based on an authorized use of military force, yet you take out a president of another sovereignty based on a law enforcement action. It's what happens when you come to Congress and lie. It's what happens when you go around Congress. Look, I get that the president wants these spheres of influence, but we also know that the president in this country wants his own sphere of governance. This president wants to do whatever he wants without Congress. That's why this war powers resolution is so important. Yes, to prevent any further boots on the ground in Venezuela, but it's so relevant to what we do here in the United States Congress. Yes, we saw the United States Senate just a few minutes ago pass a war powers resolution. Now it's time for the United States Congress, of course all Democrats, but our Republican colleagues, to actually step up and stop governing by Trump and start governing per their obligations under the United States Constitution. That is why this war powers resolution is so important.